Are you aware of the Florida State might be moving to the SEC? Have you caught wind of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of chatter amongst
What
the
is your
teams.
take on that?
It may be a business necessity.
Yeah.
The way, when teams start moving around to conferences like that, it's almost like musical chairs, and you cannot be left holding the bag. Now, what happens is like, so you got, I believe it's USC and UCLA are going to go to the Big Ten. Texas and Oklahoma are heading to the SEC. So you're really seeing a challenge to, the Big 12, as it were, and the Pac-10 or 12, whatever they're known as now. What happens is that becomes a lesser commercial product, which means less money, which means you can't compete in the NIL game or the facilities game, and you fall behind. It becomes impossible to stay up with the teams that are spending the most money.
Right.
There's no coincidence. College football is a money game. It's no salary cap. It is way more like European soccer than it is NFL football, NBA basketball. The schools that spend the most win the most. That's just the way it is. And you've got to say, how can we match revenue? And it's become more complicated with NIL because now your boosters and your collectives are expected to fork over considerable sums to support that structure. You're not necessarily getting legitimate corporate dollars. And by that, I mean, Bubba's a super marketable guy, a quirky dude who plays for a big program, and Adidas is just going to sign him. No, it's not like that. You may have a billionaire owner who owns a company who sells timeshares who's going to then have Bubba sign an NIL deal in connection with his recruitment to, the University of Tennessee. But that's where it's at now. And, without the blatant display of cash and competitive cash, like it was all about facilities. We have this cool building. Look at our weight room. Look at this. You get a freaking hand job in your locker, from a whatever. And that was the thing, because it wasn't just, competing money to pay the player. That all kind of probably lurked below the scene, but it was in a murky enough area and it wasn't necessarily like publicly known.
Right.
But now the way NIL deals are, people are figuring out, the quarterback of Alabama is making $2 million this year. Quarterback of BYU is getting $250,000 in NILs. Where am I going to go as a 5-star? You've got to be able to compete with that. So the reality is, if FSU, Miami, North Carolina, whoever in that ACC, Clemson, if they want to compete, they're going to have to join probably one of those two major conferences. And, that's just the reality of it. You can't be bound by tradition. You have to make a decision. Does Florida State want to compete in college football at the highest level like we did back in the day? If you do, you do whatever's necessary. You get your collectives in order, you get to the conference that's going to bring you the most money, and you go to war.
Yeah.
If you just want to be a traditionalist and sit in a dying conference that's going to be adding, UCF and Middle Tennessee State.
Hey, shout out to UCF.
And those types of programs, then that's what you're going to be. We already have, it's already a multi-tiered system. You have the Power 5, then you have the Lower 5 conferences, and the Power 5 is really on the verge of moving into the Power 2.
Yeah.
And then everything else is, the ACC, if teams, somebody's going to act. If we don't, it could be Clemson in North Carolina. It could be whoever. Somebody's going to act. And if you don't act fast enough, you're going to be in a conference with Houston and SMU, and that's your conference. And your pathway to the Final Four doesn't exist. So you have to do it. There's no choice on this.
That was ultimately my take on it. It just may be something that they just have to do.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for realignment. They're already in the South, so it just makes sense if that happens. But I feel like if it does, we're still a few years away from it.
I think it's happening faster.
You think it happened faster than I think?
I think because it becomes like dominoes. That Texas Oklahoma move is happening.
Yeah, it's happening now.
And I can't remember the timeline on the USC UCLA, but it was moving quick.
Yeah.
And I do think, like, again, with NIL money in play, I think Lincoln Riley at USC is going to be in a really commanding position.
Yeah.
I don't like I would have gone SEC, honestly. because I just like taking those Southern Cal kids to freaking Minnesota in November for a game is not going to be
interesting.
Good. But yeah.
No. That's for sure.
But I don't. I mean, at the end of the day, I really think college sports are. I don't want to say dying, but they've lost a lot of luster.
Yeah.
I know I care way more about what's going on at the pro level, and it's just more clear cut. And for multiple reasons. And I'm not saying the NIL. Like I have this real big belief that the game sorts everything out. And so guys that you watch in college and they're all hyped up and every announcer's telling you that this is the next big thing. No. Let's see what he does in the league. That's what matters.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care like what a guy does that crazy stats or whatever. When he gets in the league, we'll find out. Are you a real dude or not?
But college, it's good for college, though. I mean, because we still want to watch college. People still bet on college. We still want to see the best performers, in college football. So that's still a showcase. It's still, it's still entertainment. You know what I mean? So it's not all about what guys are going to get to the league.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the, that's what impacts me. But I think some people are going to be turned off by the NIL money and how that plays out.
Yeah.
And I do think I do think people are going to be turned off or already turned off by the hegemony of a couple teams.
Yeah.
And it's not, like you feel as a Florida State fan or Tennessee fan, a Minnesota fan, like teams. I mean, we're not a first-year team anymore.
I don't think passive fans are noticing right now. Not yet.
They're not noticing. But what I'm saying is, if you're a if you're like a booster alumni guy, you're not a billionaire, but you love your school and your team has had some success in the past. Like you feel this thing getting away from you.
Yeah.
Like look at a school like Penn State when James Franklin first got there. He got some positive buzz. They had a couple of seasons where they were like I think they beat Ohio State once or whatever, and they seem like they're on their way. They've plateaued.
Yeah.
And now you're just there, and like if you're Penn State, you're looking at this like, dude, there's no pathway. Like, what else are we gonna do?
Right.
And that becomes agitating.
No, it does.
Yeah.